And yeah, so so this is a kind of a really key thing because I've really seen a lot of people who have really, they talk about their big ideas. That's what we do here, and they get very excited about it. And then there's something in their little birdie, their not say bird brain, but a little bird in their brain that starts telling them, "Oh no, that's not going to happen. You can't do that, right?" And then they just kind of drop it, and they were perfectly capable of doing it. An example from my tennis life, like my other life is playing tennis, and in like pretty big tournaments and stuff over the years. And I would go out. Everyone kind of had an idea of where they stood in the rankings of the tennis. Like number one, number two, number three, and so on. So I would go out on the court, and if the person was ranked below me, they would already assume they were going to lose. Okay. And then they would start beating me. Okay. Like they were playing really well that day. I wasn't playing very well. And then I could see right just when it got close that they could have won, their brain started saying, yeah, but I'm not as good as Bill is. I shouldn't be winning. And then I would see them give up, and then I would beat them. And I would think to myself, they could have actually beaten me that day, but their brain told them that they really should never have been winning at all. Like it was really, really interesting. So the psychology of how we get ourselves in trouble in our own minds is really, really, really important when it comes to trying to do stuff in the world. So what I'm going to do is I want to talk about a concept, and I call it get that up here. There we go. The castle builder and the ditch digger. And it's kind of a fun little analogy to think about how we think about ourselves and our future and our ambitions and so on. And the subtitle says, grow 10x by assuming a higher value position in your marketplace. And this is a term I've kind of made up. I took the idea of a value proposition and positioning, which you might be familiar with, and put those two together and say, well, what we really want to do is have a higher value proposition. Okay. And so let me tell you this little kind of parable. So once upon a time, there were these two ditch diggers, and they were working on this ditch, and they were doing it because they were building this new castle at the top of a mountain, and they needed a ditch, I guess, to run the water down or whatever. So there were these two ditch diggers working very hard in the ditch, and the one ditch digger, let's call him ditch digger number one, he kept saying that he was the best ditch digger of anybody, that nobody could dig ditches better than him, faster and everything, and he's the best ditch digger. And then the second ditch digger was going, yeah, well, I'm not really that crazy about being a ditch digger, frankly. It's a job right now. I have bigger ideas for what I want to do. But anyway, so we have the ditch digger number one, ditch digger number two. Now, the thing about the castle while it was being built is that it was really a shambles. Like things weren't going well. Okay, it was behind schedule and over budget, and the king and queen that had commissioned this castle were not happy because they wanted to get it done so that because they were going to have this royal wedding, their daughter was going to get married, and they wanted to get it done in time so they could have the wedding there at the new castle, right? So there was pressure on everybody, but the whole thing was just kind of falling apart. So then the king and queen decided to come down and visit the site to see what was going on. So they were checking things out, and everybody's like, "Wow, here's the king and queen there and everything." And so that was kind of interesting. And so the thing was that the second ditch digger, he was like the king and queen were there, and they were just kind of perturbed. And he put up his hand. He said, I have ideas on how you can build your castle faster, easier, and for less money. And they said, really? Oh, well, come on, get out of the ditch and, tell us your ideas. They might have been skeptical because he was a ditch digger, but they said, yeah, I want to hear what you got, to say. And what he said was, I'm not just a ditch digger, I can be your castle builder. And they said, really? And he said, so what he did, he started giving them ideas. He'd been thinking about it. He said, well, you could do it this way and you could do it that way. And they were quite impressed with that. So they said, okay, well, nobody else seems to be doing a very good job. So why don't you come up and help us, right? Now, meanwhile, back in the ditch digger number one, he was still working really hard, and just kept thinking that I'm the best ditch digger, and just really kept working really hard and everything. But meanwhile, back at the castle, ditch digger number one, or sorry, two, had now assumed a much more higher value position in the minds of the king and queen. Okay, so they weren't seeing him anymore as a ditch digger; they were seeing him as a castle builder. And really, this was really what he should have been doing. Like, it was just, he was originally just had to have a job as a ditch digger because he just had to make money. But this is really what he was meant to do. And he had a lot of good intentions, a lot of good ideas, and so on. But this idea now is suddenly in the minds of the king and queen that he was no longer a ditch digger, but a castle builder, is kind of the key to what I'm trying to get across here today. So ultimately, based on his help, the castle got built on time and on budget, and everybody was happy because now they could have the wedding. And he was the castle builder was, everybody thought he was the greatest guy, and he's meeting all these other people now. He's getting all kinds of new opportunities. He even got invited to the wedding, and there he because he was at the wedding, he was meeting all these other prospects because the king and queen were saying, well, he built the castle for us, he got it done. So they started saying, well, maybe you could build the castle for us too, because there were other royalty there. So he started getting all kinds of other jobs as a castle builder. Now, the thing is that back in the ditch, the other guy was still saying, I'm the best ditch digger in the kingdom. And that was how he had positioned himself, as that, I'm a ditch digger and I'm the best ditch digger. So this is what I kind of see happening with people, is that they kind of get stuck at a certain place, and they can't really move beyond it, and what we don't understand is that we can have that different position. Okay. And this is really where it starts, because if we are our own self thinks that we're a ditch digger and that's all we can ever do, then that's all we're ever going to do. Okay. But I do believe everyone's capable of being a castle builder. Now, one of the things about the ditch digger number one ended up in the ditch. In a lot of ways, he didn't even know what was going on. Like, he didn't know that there was a castle really being built and that there was behind schedule, and he didn't care. He was just focusing on the job itself. And that's what I see too. A lot of times, like, they're not thinking about, well, what's the bigger picture here? So here's some tips on how you could do this for yourself, because it's an analogy. Okay. We're not digging ditches specifically, but so one thing is to assume two positions in your own mind. Okay. So say, I'm a ditch digger, I'm doing this particular job, but I could also be a castle builder. That would be the first thing. Just in your own mind, say, I could be both of these things at first. Okay. And then what you want to do with your prospects and your clients is say, put yourself forward and say, I can help you more than what you think right now. You think I'm a ditch digger, but actually I can help you build your castle. Okay. And this is what I did. For 10 years, I was a ditch digger. We did marketing projects, and those were all like digging ditches, lots of hard work and getting paid pretty good money, but not great. And then I said, you know what? We would surely be helping people with their big ideas, and we can be their big idea architect. Okay. So when people would come in to see us, I would say, well, there's two things we can do. One is we can be your marketing, contractor, and we can do these marketing jobs, or we can be your marketing architect, your big idea architect. And I would just make sure they understood those two levels that we offered. And they say, really do suggest you start with having us as the architect, right? And that was great because most people then said, okay, great. Well, you can be our marketing architect. That's really what we need. Now, the other thing was there wasn't really anyone else that was actually out there saying that they would be the marketing architect. Okay. So we had that position, that value position to ourselves. Now, when you assume that role as the castle builder, your job is a bit different now because you're basically getting paid now for your ideas, your creativity, your experience, your knowledge. Okay. So the way you want to put that into purpose is to start helping the customer and saying, look, I think there's ways you can get a better result using less resources, less time, less effort, less energy, less money, less use of tangible raw materials. This is some ideas we have, right? Now, you're not promising the world, but you're just saying, I think we've got some good stuff here that we can help you with, and really think it through and kind of create a blueprint for being able to accomplish that. Now, number 4 is it goes to that mental part, because if you focus on confidence, like you say, I need to have confidence to do this, that's kind of a slippery thing, because some days we feel confident, some days we don't. It just depends on, how we're feeling physically or what's going on in our life or everything. So our confidence goes up and down. So instead, what should focus on your good intentions. Just say, I'm trying to help these people more, and this is my good intention. If you just keep focusing on that, nobody can take that away from you. Conditions in the world can't change that. This is your anchor that you can focus on. I just have these good intentions, right? Because your good intentions, I'm just trying to help people more. Okay. And then as you get more jobs as the architect of the castle builder, building castles, you can stop digging the ditches. So at a certain point, you'll just say, no more ditches, right? So that's what happened with me after a couple of years. I said, no more, not taking any more of those jobs on. We're just going to be the castle builders now, the big idea architects. And then the final thing is that as you start to develop your process around being a castle builder, is to create a process that is, your intellectual property. Say, this is actually how we build castles. Okay. And then make that your intellectual property. So then you can actually teach other people to build castles. So this is really about this whole idea of 10x thinking. There's a lot of that out there. Everybody's talking about 10x this and 10x that. And, that's fine. But, how do you actually do that? And what you want to be careful about is that you don't end up just getting 10 times more ditches to dig, because that's usually how people talk about it. They talk about scaling up. They go, scaling up. Yeah, well, we're just going to end up digging more ditches. So is that really what I want to do? I mean, that's not going to work. So instead, say my 10x is to be the castle builder, okay, and get paid 10 times more for like half the time, because I'm giving people my creativity, my knowledge, my experience, and actually, most importantly, my good intentions. Okay. So whether we're talking about AI and all these other things, which is always fun to do, it's like, well, what are you using that for? This is kind of my ultimate message through all these meetings, is say, yeah, we can talk about all that, but what are we actually using it for? Now, the other thing is you got to be seeing the future here, what the writing on the wall. And the writing on the wall is, who's going to do all the ditch digging? The ditch digging is going to be the AI. So now suddenly the ditch diggers have all this competition, right? They're the ones that are going to lose the jobs, right? And then the castle builder can say, well, I'm going to be the castle builder, but I'm going to use AI as a partner here to do that. Now you're in a better place. But definitely, the AI is purpose built to do the ditch digging, whether literally ditch digging with robots, I can see that, but mostly with, sort of white collar jobs, right? That's all the ditch digging jobs are getting done by that. So I have a lot of things that I used to have people that I hired to do ditch digging, like create a logo or something, right? Now I'm creating logos like crazy, or do illustrations. All the illustrations here I did with ChatGPT. So I didn't have to hire a ditch digger for that. So anyway, so this is just a way to open up the conversation today, to get us to a place where we can talk about, your business and what what you're all about. So
Bill, could I just Fred here, if
yeah,
I could just pass a comment on about Lutz. I joined the conversation here after the conversation started, so I only got the tail end of what Lutz was talking about.
yeah.
And I was I didn't get the benefit of the whole thing, so my apologies, Lutz, if I didn't get your whole narrative here. But I think that what confused me about it,
Hmm.
it was something that Bill actually helped me with many years ago when I first met Bill,
Yeah,
and we were doing this thing called the definitive article,
right.
and the another thing you call it was the impact narrative. You know, what is the simple statement of what you're all about, Fred? You know, like what are you trying to do?
Hmm.
That an 8-year-old would understand very, very clearly.
Yeah.
And so it took me a number of years to actually nail that down into something, a really simple statement. So, you know, Lutz is dealing with grappling with a really big idea, but I'm not sure it's really clear in his mind about what the simple statement is. And I think if he had a clearer, simple statement,
Yes.
that he could use that over and over and over again, it would actually clear the way for him to
Hmm.
really know not so much only what he was doing, but and how he was going to do it, and very clearly give a path to him as a way forward. So, I mean, I'm just raising that as an
Yeah, no, that's
observation.
good. So I can offer a couple of thoughts there on that. Um,
Uh, can I say something?
yeah,
First
sure.
of all, thank you very much, Frederick. I'm going to put my email in the chat box, but I wanted to have a quick comment about the wonderful story you created about the castle builder, Bill, because in the 1800s, theaters were the most important diversion for rich people. And in the 1880s, the King of Bavaria was just loving theater. And there was an architect of theater set designs whose designs he liked so much that he said, "Build me a castle." And that theater set designer was the architect of the Neuschwanstein Castle in southern Bavaria, after which Walt Disney modeled his castle.
Well, there you go. Good
And
background for that whole story there.
yeah,
Yeah.
Neuschwanstein was built in 1888,
Yeah.
and it it was incomplete because it
Yeah.
ran late on time and over budget. That there
Uh-huh.
were like it was a castle that had like 38 rooms designed in it, of
Yeah.
which only 19 were finished.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, my point there is that everybody's got a castle that's behind budget and, and behind time. And so this is why we got to look at our customers, right? And say, okay, what's going on with them? What's the castle they're trying to build? I have a client who's an architect. I can just go with architect again. But he was just one of thousands of architects, right? And then when I had this conversation about, well, what's your higher thing that you're really about? What do they want out of all this, And he said, well, what they really want to end up in the ideal environment for their life. This is Brian Lee Architects, actually. And so I said, oh, well, you have the ideal environment program. Okay. And he said, what's that? And he said, well, you'll say, like we have the basic architecture services, of course, but what's special about what we do is that we help you begin by really plotting out your ideal environment, right? And so he uh, made that his name of his company, Ideal Environment and Architects. And when he meets people, that's the first thing he does. He said, let's just plot this all out first, right? So that's kind of like helping people build their castle as far as the ideal, environment. And it's saying, I have this special thing that I'm doing, right? And I have lots of ideas. So his work there on his big idea, which is always the case, is to say, well, what's something I can do? There's the standard way everything is done around here, in our industry or whatever. What's a better way to do that? And it might only be like one or two things that'll make it better, but that'll be all that'll differentiate you, right? And it'll put you at a higher value position, right? I have a client who does Rick Scruggs, and he does financial planning. So he has my basic level, we do financial services, financial planning, and so on. But we have a more advanced form of financial planning. It's called abundance business coaching. And that's at a higher level. And so what the customer, the client sees is this higher value position, right? He says, oh, well, I can get the basic financial services from just about anybody, but I can only get abundance business coaching from you. So now suddenly in the client's mind, Rick and his team are at this higher position. Okay. And that's where we want to be. So that when you're at that position, there isn't anyone else up there. That's why I talked about, everyone else is going on. We're actually the best financial advisors around, right? Like we're the best ditch digger, but you can't win that one because it's just like, well, kind of so what for one, but also like who's to say, right? But when you are the only, abundance business coaching coach, then you have a higher value position, and it's also the category that you own, and you're the only one in it. So this is why we say, like, whatever you're doing, start with a big idea that's new, better, and different, takes everything to a much higher level that people can only get from you. And then once you have that, then you are at that higher value position. And I'll just I'll go ahead. And the question? A comment? No. So who here would like to have a little coaching on their value position? Anybody interested in that?
Like that. Bill?
Who would like me to help them do that?
Tracy would.
Yeah.
Tracy? Okay. Let me just find Tracy here. You want me to do a little talking with me?
Sure.
All right. So just put you in the spotlight there. Okay. You're in the spotlight now.
Thank
Good
you.
morning. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks. How are you, Bill?
That's good. I'm great. Yeah. So why don't you tell them who you are and where you're from and what you do?
My name is Tracy Lacqua. I am from Dundas, Ontario, just outside of Hamilton. I own a company called In Exteriors Design and Decor, Inc., and I design model lifestyles.
Model lifestyles. That's what we've been working on.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, so what can you say to people? We've been talking about this. We had a couple of sessions recently. But what are you saying to people that where they can see you at this higher position? Okay. Another way of thinking about it is it's like a building with two floors. Okay. And the first floor are you and all your competition, because you'll say, yeah, we're set up down on the first floor. We can do that. But then there's a second floor and you're the only one up there. And you say, hey, maybe you want to come up to the second floor and be up here. We're the only ones up here. So how would you describe that to people?
Great question.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a very good question. So I believe what differentiates me from other interior design professionals is that I also offer renovation management services, which very few do. So when clients work with me, I am able to help design their model lifestyle by providing interior design and renovation management services so they can recognize their model lifestyle, their dream, with fewer surprises, better results, on time, on budget.
Okay. So that's good. That's a good description of what you do. And it's sort of, that's an elevator pitch, I guess, like it's kind of a long elevator ride, but then that's fine. Okay. Like that was all really good what you said. So I'm not saying that, but here's a way to kind of sharpen it a little bit so that people will get it. Because the thing about keep in mind is when you're talking to prospects or clients, even they really have very short attention span. So they really just very quickly trying to kind of size up what the heck's going on here with somebody or whatever. Like, what's the story here? So what you told me, I would still think that you were kind of a ditch digger. Okay. talking about renovation and that kind of thing. And then don't take it wrong. It was like, it's just an
No, no,
analogy.
no, it's good. It's
I'm not
good.
saying there's anything, low class about what you're doing, anything.
No.
Okay. But it's just that's how I would kind of go, yeah, well, it's a lot of people do renovation. And then you add in this kind of, well, we also, we're very rare because we do renovation. Okay. So, so that part, I don't know, that wouldn't really get you out of the ditch, actually.
Okay.
Okay. But what you want to say, because you had it right there, you'd say, well, I really do these two things. Okay. I do interior design and we do renovation management. That's all the basic stuff. That's the ground floor. Okay. And then what we also have, though, is our model lifestyle process, where we help people really figure out their model lifestyle. Okay. And we do that first. And that's something we specialize in, you see. And you can even hold your hands that way. You say, well, we do basic things here, and then we do this other thing here. Okay. Because now my brain can compute that. Okay. And say, oh, right. Okay. Well, so I see what your ditch digging thing is, but I also see how you're my castle builder. Okay. And that's what that's how marketplace will understand that you've got something special now. You see that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So one of the things I tell people about when you're talking about their business, it's not the same as just having a conversation with your friends. Okay. This is serious business in a way. Okay. So it really does have to be scripted because you've only got one shot at it. Okay. And it's not just a story, it's a marketing story. And a marketing story is meant to ultimately get somebody to buy something. Okay. So we have to be very kind of methodical about what we're saying. Because I've heard people say, well, tell me what you do. And blah, 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 all over the place. And you know what? It's all very interesting. If I was just sitting there with my uncle at Christmas dinner or something, it'd be great. But that's not a marketing environment. So, so the marketplace is very short attention span. And they're saying they're going to pigeonhole you very quickly, put you in the category. Okay, you're interior design renovating person. Know lots of those people. But you have your big idea. So you go model lifestyle. But you tell them it's advanced. I have something basic. I have something advanced. So you just start working on very clearly making sure they understand that first before you get into all the other stuff. Because then they'll put you at that higher value position in their mind. Because when I talk about higher value position, it's one thing. We have to put ourselves there first, but then we have to show other people that we actually occupy that higher value position. That will then go in their mind, say, oh, no, you're not my ditch digger. You're my castle builder. You're my architect, whatever. You follow that?
I do. Thank you.
All right. So see what you can work with that. I think we have another call coming up soon. So we'll pull that up.
Yep.
Okay. So anyone else like a little coaching on that sort of thing? This is your chance now. Oh, wait a minute. There we go. Go back to everybody. Who would like to have me coach them on this? I know that sounds scary, but
I will.
you're going to go, Tom. Great.
Yeah, take it to the hoop.
Spotlight here. Let me add me in the spotlight. How do I put myself in there? I can get two of us going in the same place. There we go. All right. So Tom, how do you occupy a higher value position in the minds of the people you're talking to?
I tell people that I help them clarify what their future looks like.
Clarify their future. Okay. All right. Good. Okay. And then, and why is that helpful to them?
I think people today are in such a complex world, and I'm trying to simplify things for them.
Okay. So this clarifying their future is really what you're all about, right? Okay.
Right.
Now, I would say that makes me say on the ditch digging level that you're like a business coach.
Right.
Business coach. Okay. That's probably the most business. Yeah. Consultant, forget, don't even use that word. But say
Right.
business coach. So, okay. So you'd say to set this up, right? So they get a better sense of who you are. Okay. And that you're not just anybody, is that you'd say, well, on a basic level, I'm a business coach. Okay. And you can say there's a lot of people that are business coaches out there. And a lot of them are really good. Okay. Like they're great. You okay? You on your phone now, Tom, or what are you doing?
No, I'm taking notes.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So anyway, so then, well, can you do it without, yes, I want to see your face there, Tom. Tom, this isn't
Okay.
working. Okay, hang on. Hang on. I will review this again, and you can watch
All
the
right.
video. Just, there's going to be a whole video. Go back and watch it.
All right. All
It's
right.
too important to do that. Okay. So you're, so I say on a basic level, I'm a business coach. Okay. But on a higher level, I help people clarify their future. I have like the future clarity process. Okay. So you want to have that named. We've talked about that before. So I'd say on a basic level, down here on level 1, I'm business coach. And on level 2, I do the future clarity process. I help people clarify their future and help them achieve it, I would think. Help them clarify and achieve their future dream or something, right? Okay. Now, why do you think I'm saying you say it that way?
Because they want to ask about more.
Okay, so it definitely get them to ask more.
And
how are they going to perceive you now?
It differentiates you from just a regular business coach.
Yeah, right. Okay, so that differentiating thing, there's just a subtle nuance there, is that you could say, and that's what the ditch digger was trying to say, I'm the best ditch digger. He's trying to differentiate himself as the best ditch digger. Okay, that's not going to work. Okay, what I'm saying here is, you're not saying I'm the best business coach. Okay, but that sounds bad anyway, but everybody's trying to pull that off. This isn't good. So then you go, no, but we'll just give that, we'll say everyone's even there. But then I'm a future clarity coach. There they go. So I'm a future clarity coach. And then they say, and that's a more advanced way of doing things. That's a very important thing to say. It's very more advanced way of doing things. So you could just do basic business coaching, or you could do a more advanced way to think about this, you see. That's why, like, for me, I was going, and it's true. Like, that's the thing. It's true. It's not just the marketing thing. And especially if you make it true, because you're just trying to do it better than what's normally done. When I was making this presentation together, I was thinking about 10x, all this stuff about 10x. And I go, okay, well, what's the flaw in that? Okay, because nothing's perfect. And I go, well, it's just wishful thinking, right? And then they end up having 10 times, digging 10 times more ditches. So I go, okay, so it's a good start, and that's sort of basic, but what's a more advanced way? Well, this value positioning. So if I'm going to be 10x, I want it to be as a castle builder, not as a ditch digger. So I was just always making that my intention to say, how can something be done better? Right. And then have a story that's very simple that it can explains why what I have is better. But but not sounding boastful, like I'm the best ditch digger, because that's just not going to be. Okay. All right. So now you can take your notes, Tom. Can you remember that? Let you take your notes now. Okay. So who else would like to be in the hot seat one more time?
Sure, I'll do it. Oh, okay. You go ahead.
Who's that? Who was the other person?
I had one, but that's
okay. Let's go with Michael. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I know you're right in the middle of
actually read you the problem.
I know you're right in the middle of figuring this out, so I'm gonna do it with you. Okay.
Yeah. I was like, I half wrote what I was going to put in the text in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got a client in Australia.
Okay.
Working with the largest logistics company in the country, and they want to know how to transform one's digital mindset in the wake of AI and tech transformation. And they're asking some questions that they want us to address and to bring to their large organization. What does AI mean for my role as a leader? How should I embrace and entrench AI in my team? How do I yield the benefits of AI, such as creating mental capacity to work on higher value items? And how do I get my team to do this? And so this Maximus, which is like the McKinsey of Australia, is asking us, Next Collabs, to kind of present to this client. And I thought your ditch digger castle analogy is really, topical, I think, and how to think about what is their dream. They're a company, they're a logistics company, it's a big company. What is the castle that, as an architect, I happen to be an architect, the dream that I want to build for them, that they're now an AI-powered fucking company, right? Like, what does that look like? I think it's really exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, you brought up a good point about this. Okay. Is that the client often one of the biggest problems is the client's caught up in the ditch digging. Okay. And
Very
they've
good point.
forgotten that they're actually trying to build a castle. Okay. They get caught in the weeds here, right? I mean, if we all do that in our life, right? Well, this is a huge problem we all have. We get caught up in this specific, we forget why we're even doing something. Okay. Like that, and then as the supplier, we don't even know or care about it. We're just like, okay, you got to dig a ditch. We'll come in and dig a ditch. I have no idea why you're digging a ditch. I don't care. I'm just getting my money and getting out. Okay. So a lot of people just take that kind of expedient route because it's like, seems easier. But what about if you were to say to them, well, if you start to have the way you help them first is say, what are you really trying to do here? Okay. Like, so we start asking questions like, I know we're talking about the ditch, but why are we digging a ditch? What's the bigger thing we're doing here? That's a castle builder. It's just a castle building is just a metaphor, right? But what is the big thing that you're trying to do? And they go, well, what would be in the case of these folks? What are they trying to do?
It sounds like that they want to kind of elevate themselves from just ditch digging and everyone preoccupied with that and offload the dirty jobs, so to speak, to AI so that you can elevate your people to start thinking about the next level. Like it sounded like they wanted to create mental capacity to work on higher value items. Well, what are those higher value items?
Right. Okay. So you can say to them, listen, we can certainly help you with the ditch digging things, like set up an AI system or something like that. But what we're really here for is to be like your vision architect here, your AI vision architect, and say, okay, what it would be the kind of ideal business that you would have if it was all enabled by AI, and you'd be doing your best work and your biggest opportunities and so on. What would be that total thing, right? And help them and say, that's what I'm really going to do first, right? It's like Tom saying, I'm going to help people clarify their future, right? That's exactly it, right? So now we're not telling them what the answer to that is. We're actually here to ask them the questions, you see. But we're telling them that those are the kind of, we tell them to ask them those kind of questions, not because we're trying to figure out how to build your ditch for you, but we're trying to ask you those questions because we want to help you figure out what the castle looks like. Like, what does that look like for you, right? So that becomes the very beginning of your process every time, right? Because otherwise we're just jumping right on the ditch digging job, and it's not
helping them build more ditches.
And they just see as a ditch digger, right?
It's
but
like
if you start, sorry.
Well, we have something that we're crafting for January 1st, which is a 90-day AI strategy roadmap for organizations, right?
Okay.
And so I think that is it's a transformational kind of journey, right? To go, your ditch diggers here, you're a legacy company, you've been doing this all long. Now we're going to take you to here, but there's going to be a 90-day process to do this carefully and then get you to the vision of the next generation of yourself.
Yeah, that's good. So this is all great because you totally know how to do that, and that's your intention. Now, when we tell the marketing story, that's very deliberate. Okay, is that it's we have to be very careful because we got to make sure they know you're more than a ditch digger. Okay, because this is the thing. So this is why I go back to the general story here that I figured out many years ago how to explain this. So you tell them whatever you want at the beginning, just to get a little flashy thing to say. But then you go, well, I call it the lobby conversation. So on the elevator, we're just trying to get their attention, right? It's a short little thing. Then we get off and they stop in the lobby. So, well, that's really interesting. Tell me more about that, right? So then what you say is a sort of a script. You'd refine it, but you'd say, well, we have these two levels that we work at. We have a basic level, we have an advanced level. That sentence is the most important sentence you'll probably ever say in your business to a prospect or even a client. Okay. We have these two levels, basic and advanced. I can't coach my clients more on this. I just say, I don't know what else you're saying, but you want to start with that. Okay. Why do you think that's important?
We have something like that. We call it the showcase. So it'd be like, this is the most basic, gives you the overview of what's going on in the current state of play. Then we have the advanced, which is really the 90-day process.
Yeah.
Does that
Okay.
make
So
sense?
before though, you even tell them what they are.
Yeah.
Don't go there. You start with it. I have basic and advanced. We want to make sure that they're clued into that first.
Right.
Okay? That's why the order of it is so important.
I guess the basic would be more general, low, high chunk, and it's more just.
Well, let's not worry about what it is yet.
And then and then the high chunk, or the more advanced, is that it's much more tailored to them in a sense.
Well, we'll see. We'll get there.
Okay, you get there.
Hang on, I'm holding my judgment on it, but it's all good. I mean, you've got it all, really. It's just not organizing it. But this is why I say the first thing, generally speaking, is we have basic and advanced.
Okay.
It's kind of like you're walking them through the grades. So grade 1 is, let's just make sure they get it, that there's basic and advanced. So you go, yep, they get that. There's basic and advanced. And then you say, for the basic, we do this. And then fill in whatever that is. But don't overdo it. Don't try to sell that. Just say, we do AI consulting.
Yeah.
Okay. That's it. No bells and whistles. All right. Not trying to sell that anyway. So AI consulting. And then they go, okay, now they know kind of what category to put you in. They know you're not a dentist or a lawyer or something. Okay. AI consultant. Okay. All right. The next sentence says, of course, there's a lot of people that also do the basic. Now, why are we mentioning the other people?
Just to kind of like make it generic, right?
Yeah, we've really,
It's our generic offer.
That category is that AI consulting is now basic. It was, if you were an AI consultant 3 years ago, it was probably like you're the only one around. Now there's a million of them. You don't have a job, you call yourself an AI consultant now. Okay, like literally, like they're just piling in. You type in AI consultant now on Google, you get millions of results. So we just go, fine. Lots of people do that. Now, we're not saying anything bad about them though, because we've included ourselves in that. You follow me? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So then the next thing is we say, however, the advanced approach or methodology or model or process, whatever you want to say, the advanced thing that we provide takes everything to a much higher level. It's only available from us. We're creating a visualization in their mind around this. I mean, you could even create a slide, of course, right? Just say,
yeah.
Okay. But so then we're going to get like grade 3 now. Okay. We're going, do they get that? We haven't even told them what it is yet, which is deliberate, kind of making them want to know. But it's a basic here, advanced up here. Okay. Two value positions. Okay. But then they say, well, you're the only one up here. And then we say, we realize, however, that this advanced approach is not for everybody. We don't take everybody in that one. It's still not for everybody. It's just, it's advanced. It's not for everybody. So we're using a little reverse psychology there. So what does the person, how does a person respond psychologically to that?
They go, that's the special, that's something unique. That's one of a kind. That's
what are they worried about?
Oh, that they're going to miss out.
They're not going to be qualified. They're not going to get in.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. So then that makes it, now you're not selling.
Yeah.
See, this is the thing. We have eliminated the idea you're a salesperson too from this, because we don't want to position you there either. That's the worst position. That's like off the chart salesperson. Okay. Okay. So then we say something really peculiar. Okay. Let's just let somebody in here. Now we say that, if you already have somebody doing the basic for you, a ditch digger, that's all good. We can work with them, because we were focusing on this more advanced thing anyway, and we can work with them. That seals the deal now. Now they really get it that you're not just a ditch digger anymore. Because if you're willing to work with another ditch digger, then there must be something more advanced you really truly are doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that anyone you're working with is probably going to say, well, we already have a ditch digger. We already have an AI consultant. We already have, my brother-in-law is an AI consultant, right? Like I say, I'm Dick and Harry, so putting up the shingle. No problem. We can work with them. No problem. Okay. So that really does position you now at that higher level. This is all the persuasion part of the sale. Okay. Robert Cialdini, Dr. Robert Cialdini, wrote the book Influence, right? Then he wrote this book, or what called Persuasion. I'm trying to remember the exact name, but he wrote this one called Persuasion. I think that was the most useful one. So before you start telling them what you got to sell, you got to set up the conditions for them to understand why what you've got is special, right? So there's a whole book on that. And I went, oh, you're talking my language here. You know, he just explained the psychology of it. But we have to set that up. And that persuasion is to position you at a higher level in their minds, just right from the beginning. Because if they don't know that story, they're just going to assume you're a ditch digger because everybody else they've talked to is a ditch digger. So
I love that.
the one last point, I'll just put a pin in it because you mentioned it at the beginning, is that it's not just, that it's good for them to understand who you are. But really, once you start seeing yourself that way, you realize, oh, I got to help them start thinking about the castle first. Because they're talking to me right now about the ditch, right? Because they've gotten lost down in the ditch and they've forgotten why they're even doing it, and they're just they're going to end up with a great ditch and a crappy castle. That's the problem, right? So what I would do when I started my program, when I had the 2 levels, because I don't anymore, I'm just the castle builder, is that I said, well, I have these 2 levels. I said, and then what I would do was I would start to ask them questions. Say, well, why do you, like they say, I want a website. That would be the ditch, right? I'd say, okay, well, why do you want to have a website? What's the bigger goal you're trying to accomplish? Well, I'm trying to get customers. Okay, so you're actually trying to get more customers. So maybe you need to do more than just think about your website. About maybe you need a marketing plan. Maybe you need to figure out who your customers are, what you're selling them, and so on. Is that maybe that's the bigger question? So once you've helped them identify the bigger point of what it's all about, and you say, well, that's actually what I'm going to help you with first, right? And then that really starts that conversation, because the rest of the folks that talk to them are very likely just to say, I am here to help you with the ditch, and here's my price.
I think that's a huge differentiator.
So I might be beating that horse here because I think you get it, but I wanted to make all the points for everybody else too.
Thank you.
Cool, eh?
I think it's wonderful.
That's helpful.
I think natively, I think there's something to that. I mean, natively, I'm a castle builder. I'm a vision type, right?
Yeah, of course.
That comes naturally. And so what I'm noticing here is that I think there are moments there, the person who is the CEO or whatever of a company owner, if they're not natively a vision person, then I would say they need to find a partner.
Yes.
Who can help them do the vision piece.
Yes.
Because if you're just a management, like if you're really good at that, that's not enough. There's not enough, right?
Right.
So it's the Wozniak, Jobs kind of continuum. 1 + 1 = 3. I think that is the ultimate mixology that's required, right? And maybe it's part of it is to realize that, oh, you know what? I just don't have that management skill, so I will bring in a COO, right, for me. So I can just do what I'm really good at, which is I've conceived the castle.
Well, that's the other thing, okay, is that you start to realize, okay, I could have a team around me, the whole castle building team now, right? And not think you have to do everything, of course. And it's not really about, hey, I'm great and I'm a castle builder. It's just that you're making that your intention to help them build the castle, right? And to keep them focused on that bigger thing, right?
Yeah, that's your job. Right?
Yeah, right. So because
Bill, if I could just say
of us
something,
have fallen into that ditch, right? Because we're all just doing those jobs because that's where everyone, the client even starts there, right?
Exactly.
That's the thing. Okay, so
Bill,
right.
could I just say something that Michael said? Michael, I think people have visions, but one of the things I've come to realize, sometimes people only have 30-day vision. They have a 1-year vision. They have a 5-year vision. They have a 25-year vision.
Yeah.
And I think that different, like I find myself, sometimes I get caught. I don't know what my timeline is, but I get caught in my vision. I do have vision, but once it gets beyond that, I don't have a good visualization for it. And I think from what you said, that's something that you do very well on maybe on a longer term vision that other people don't. So I think that's an important part in building the castle. I can build one of the turrets, but maybe I can't do the whole thing. And you have to get the right people around you that can do both.
Well, and the thing is, I'm not saying that you don't want to actually get the job building the turret, okay? But the best way to get the job building the turret is to talk about the castle, okay? Begin there, and then say, well, yeah, of course, I'm helping you with the castle, but we can do the turrets, right? So it's not that we're trying to give that job to someone else necessarily, right? So I want to be clear about that. I'll tell you.
I understand. I was more commenting about his discussion on vision. I find that people, just by our nature, some of us have different abilities. That's all. So, but I love your analogy that you went through, Bill. I think you did a great job of breaking it out for us.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I remember when I thought of that analogy, I thought that's really fun. That's kind of is a good one for all of us to think about. Because I've certainly fallen into the ditch so many times, right? And the other thing is you can be the castle builder for a while, and suddenly because you lose your concentration or something on this, you find yourself in the ditch. You're like, wait a minute, what am I doing in the ditch? I'm in the ditch again. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm here.
It's usually when the sewers back up, Bill.
What's that?
Yeah.
It's usually when the sewers back up that you find yourself back in the ditch.
That's true. Yeah. I would say one time that you could end up in the ditch is if the economy slows down a bit, right? And you think, oh, you get a little fearful, and you go, okay, I just got to get any kind of business I can get, right? And then you start grabbing onto the little stuff, and then finally, and then the economy picks up again. It's like, well, now everybody sees me as a ditch digger now.
Yeah. I would say that a ditch digger can't make too many big mistakes. Well, castle builder, they can make a lot of horrible mistakes and huge mistakes, right?
Yeah.
And so the reason why, the castle builder has all this expertise and, it has, it's the star is because if you're very good, you're doing very well. But if you're very bad, you do a lot worse. And
it's so competitive.
Yeah. So, you do have to be good. If you're going to be at the castle builder stage, you have to be very good. One thing I would say, and Michael, maybe to your comment, there's this new term out there. It was not so much new, but, it's AI assisted workflows, right? This is now the hot buzz, right? Yeah. That we look at your workflow and then we'll figure out how to make AI to assist it. In the old days, they called it robotic processing automation, which is a little bit different concept, but kind of the same thing, which is, how can we automate what you're doing, right? And, so how can I give, the AI, the ditch digging functionality so I can go to the higher level of the castle builder? And, so I think what you're going to see over the next couple of years is that people, what are your tasks that you need to do? And then, how can AI do the ditch digging function so I can do the castle building role?
Well, that's exactly it, right? So if you're positioned as a castle builder in their minds, then you can bring AI and do everything. You're completely confident that the AI itself is not going to replace you. Because right.
And I would add one other thing is, so if you have just like, okay, what is my work process, right? I have 20 steps, and just how can I have the AI do 19 of the 20 steps so I don't have to do them, right? But the question is okay, do I want to do, this, we're going to be talking about this disruption mindset at Next Collabs, and how do you disrupt the workflow? How do you disrupt, so, here's my current workflow to do X, how do I need a new workflow? Do I need to, with AI, do I have, instead of building a castle, I want to build a spaceship to the moon, right? It's like I totally disrupt my this new factory thinking, right? How do I totally disrupt the factory to do a completely new way of doing business?
Yeah, I love that. And the way I look at AI, is that it can do all the ditch digging for us. And it can help us focus on the castle building in our own lives and everything. Because think about it, it frees up your energy and time and everything to go, okay, well, what's the bigger thing I can do now, right? And it's the classic thing where you think, oh, I don't want to lose that job digging the ditch. But you know what? If we lose the job digging the ditch, suddenly you find yourself building castles and you go, wait a minute, I'm glad I lost my job digging the ditch, right? So I think for a lot of people, that's what we're going to find, is that, I mean, the problem is that a lot of people, if they define themselves as a ditch digger and that's it, then when AI replaces their job, they go, well, I have no job now, because they haven't been given the way of thinking about, well, what could be the benefit of this, and so I see that as a real loss of human potential, actually, is that we just put ourselves in that position. I mean, another way I've described this to people, I say, there's the guy who sells Volkswagens, nothing to take away from Volkswagens, and then there's the guy who sells Rolls Royces. They're the same guy, but one decided to sell Volkswagens, the other guy decided to sell Rolls Royces and said, okay, well, I'll just put on a nicer suit and learn about Rolls Royces as opposed to Volkswagens. I mean, it really is a choice, right? And you can say, well, I'll do both for a while, but it really is just the same guy. They're both selling cars, right? So we can all decide if we want to sell Volkswagens or we want to sell Rolls Royces, right? And I'd rather sell a Rolls Royce for sure. Bigger commission on that one, that baby. And you get to hang out with, you get to drive around in a Rolls Royce probably most of the time. Probably give you a loan.
Well, like in the United States, they have the executive act, of the Biden administration. They have 150 different actions out of this 110 pages. But one of them is each organization within the U.S. government has an AI czar, a chief AI officer. And, I was last week at a meeting for, media. And newspaper and so forth. And for instance, I talked to a person from the BBC, and he's in charge of figuring out the AI strategy for the BBC. But there's this organization that actually has, these are your current workflows in news reporting and media. And what do I need to do to, what are these workflows and how do I use these workflows? Now, my question, thinking of this next mindset, right? This new factory thinking, this castle building thinking is, okay, is there a way to disrupt those that, they have 8 cycles of the news flow, right? And is there anything that we can completely disrupt in this area, right? So here's our current way of doing it and then add AI. But now it's like, okay, now that we have AI, how do we do completely new ways of thinking?
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So what I want to do is ask a question. I put it in the chat. Okay. What have you taken away from the idea of the castle builder story? What would be a takeaway for today?
It's all how you position yourself.
Okay, and so what give me more about that.
If you're trying to put yourself in somebody's mind when they think of you, do they think of you as a ditch digger or a castle builder?
Yeah. So how will you going forward make that happen?
I'll tell them I'm talking to Bill Bishop and I'm now a castle builder.
Okay. All right. Well, I like the plug. Definitely anytime you want to tell them about me, that's fine. That's good. I love it. Okay. Who else has got one? Something they could share.
Well, Bill, I wrote in the comments that AI is the latest tool, and tools help you do things faster, better, cheaper. However, the real issue here is insight. And the other thing that I found over the years is anything you can productize or systematize is a lot better than just knowing how to use a tool. And so the real value, even for Michael, is having a training ground to create the AI czars, not to go direct, because the people will say, it's great, I see it, but I have nobody in my organization who can lead this. And, could you please assign somebody locally who's trained, who has your backing to make this happen? Because, we've got change management, we've got to get it through people, we're going to disrupt things, and we're okay with that. We want to do it, but we have no idea how to start. And the other part, I said, there's a Walmart strategy, good, better, best. which is not a bad deal, so that the folks that are value conscious can still work with you, but the people, don't leave money on the table. And the last part that I put in there was, don't forget to actually have an advanced level with fully formed ideas and processes, or else you're selling air. And
Yes,
that will be seen
definitely.
very quickly. So focus on real value. And this is where your industry expertise comes in. So I think, Bill, what you're really saying is most people have insights, but they can't separate the trees from the forest. So figure out, if you could wave a magic wand, what would the ideal scenario be, and help people get to that ideal scenario. You have to educate them on it. You have to explain it. You may have to sell it. And then they go, I see it. Your experience is coming in useful. I don't want to make all the mistakes myself. And I need you. See, the key is it goes from, I have no idea who you are, to I want to hear more about it, to I need you. And the moment that they say, I need you, then price is no object, right? I need you for my success. And, from Michael's standpoint, I would not position myself as a direct link, because the world is too big. What you want to be is the resource mecca, not the actual implementer. So, you want people trained up. It's a little bit like Eliyahu Goldratt with the writing books about it and becoming the AI czar, or the focus for the airport for this area, using Bill's analogy. Because the world is too big a place, and you'll mire yourself down, and you'll be a ditch digger forever in the AI implementation world. It's just not, you'll make more money writing the books about it than you will actually doing it. Right. So,
well, one thing I've always coached my clients on it is to say, people will pay you more for what you know than what you can do for them. So, so that's a good start. It's like, Tom, what you're really saying there is like, teach them how to fish. Don't do the fishing for them, because that's, they're not going to value that as much as they're going to value your knowledge, right? Like, what do you know? So yes. That's great advice, I think, Tom.
I like the added on part. You can give a man a fish and he'll eat for today. You can teach him to fish and he'll be okay. But the real goal here, and this is for everybody, teach him how to buy the pond.
Even better. And then they can teach people how to fish.
You got it, Mike. That's the key to it.
Yeah. So that's an even higher value position, right? What's above castle builder, right?
Exactly. Empire builder.
Well, actually what it is, I didn't put that in the story, but I usually did, is that he ended up with his own castle. Okay. Like, that's all there is to it. So,
hey, Bill.
Yeah.
Would you say that again? People will pay more for what you know versus what?
Well, they'll pay you more for what you know than what you can do for them. Like, you could, like we're saying, like, you could help them. Like, I remember when we were doing websites, we were building websites for them. And then I said, we get paid more by teaching them how to build their own websites. And so that's what we did. And I said, because then they know how to do a website. They're going to find that way more valuable. And then we don't have to do it. And we were literally charging 3 or 4 times more to teach them how to build their own website than doing it for them. And it was actually taking less time in the end. So, and then we weren't positioned as the website builder, which is like ditch digger. We were the teacher. So teacher, coach, those kind of things.
Enabler.
Yeah. I haven't shown, I don't think, in this, the value hierarchy. I'll keep that for another time, but in the value hierarchy, I have like a pyramid, and at the top of the pyramid, I call it theorist. So you have a theory about something, about how things, a better way to do something. And then below that, we have architect. So the architect takes the theory and takes a blueprint for somebody for that, right? And then below that, we have the contractor, subcontractor, and then laborer at the very bottom. And everybody puts themselves in a particular position there. That's the ultimate hierarchy. So if you want to really go for it, you go theorist. And we actually all are theorists. We just don't know it. We all have a theory about something, about how to make something do something better. And then if we package it, I had a client who did inventory management, Bill Simpson. And I said, Bill, like, what's your model? because I wanted to think about being a theorist. Well, for inventory management, it's about having a balanced inventory. Okay. And I said, oh, you have the balanced inventory model. We could have called it the balanced inventory theory, perhaps, right? We called it model. And he said, what's that? And I said, well, that's your ideal. Like, it's, you're saying not too much, not too little. Now you own that theory. And then, so he packaged it, and then he presented it to his prospects. He started there. So I have this approach to inventory management. I call it the balanced inventory model, and not too much, not too little. And the first 6 companies he presented to hired him. And because they got into their head, we love your model. We want a balanced inventory. So the only person to get it from is you. So, and then he had a process, to Tom's point. Like, it was a very detailed process to get to that special thing. It wasn't just a talk, right? It was an actual process. But they were doing the process because they wanted to get to the model. So if you really want to position yourself as the ultimate thing, you're like, that's above castle builder, because you're like, you have a theory of how to do building castles, right? And then that's really good. So that's like, for me, I have the new factory thinking, right? That's my theory, my model, and I start there with everything. That's where
I got one term coming from my world in architecture is master planner.
Okay.
So a master planner is the one who designs like the city, and then the architect does project building by building.
Yes.
And then you go down to contractor. So I think master planner might be the higher order.
Okay. So master planner.
You think about that's the strategist, not so much tactical. It's more strategy, high level vision, and they're working off of, theory.
Master planner is good. That's a good one. That's a good term. Maybe you could use that.
Because their job is the big picture, that everything all kind of like say globally.
Yeah. But you see, Frank Lloyd Wright, was not a master planner. He was above that. He had a theory of architecture.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. That's a good point.
So I think you could have a theory.
Yeah.
AI master planning. Like, that's what I'm trying to point you is like right to the very top. What's your theory to say this is the best way to go about all this AI stuff, right?
Yeah.
What is it? Like, and it takes a little thinking, but you know it already. Because the reason why everybody has a theory and a model is because if someone asked you, say, well, what do you think I should do with ChatGPT or GPTs or something? Your brain would go, okay, you should do this. What it was accessing was your model, your theory, right? And then you say, well, don't do this. And it was accessing your model. Because your model says, this is what I believe is right to do and not to do. And so you have that. If you package it, then that puts you at that highest position. You say, but you have
what's interesting.
What is the number one point of that model?
Yeah, no, I love that. That's a distillation. And like when you think of someone like, the towers downtown, the Seagram's Towers, what's his name? I can't even remember now, but that particular architect had like less is more and so on, right?
Mies van der Rohe,
right? So, like when you hired Mies, you would predictably get like a sort of a similar build out, whether it's a house or a tower or, a campus, right?
Right. Well, and
but there's a higher order concept underlying it all.
Like I was taking my son was here for Christmas. It was his only weekend he could come for it. So I was taking my dog for a walk in our neighborhood in the beaches. And there's all these Victorian homes and stuff. And then there's all these boxy places that were built in the 60s. And he was going, oh, I don't like the look of those things. And I go, yeah, that is actually, that's the Bauhaus architecture style that started with Mies van der Rohe. And they had this idea in the 60s that this was a way to build a house. And he's going, and I said, it started in the 20s. And there was a theory around architecture and people were just using it to build these places. Now we look at them and go, I don't like it so much. They're trying to redo them.
It's an operating system, right?
The power of that is there's all these architects started using that theory. It's spread out.
The other thing too is that like something like Mies van der Rohe, it's all about like big kind of open glass kind of interaction with the outer world. Like you're just dissolving architecture. So there's a whole theory that you're going to buy into that, and a series of, let's say, precepts that go into every project. So I love your idea that kind of go up to the meta model, right?
Yeah,
The
so
metal.
if you want to be above castle builder, this is why we have this after party, because this is where we get into the big stuff, is that your theory, okay, is what you're basing. If you're going to be the castle builder, you're obviously, you see that castle builder got out of the ditch. He had a theory about building castles. He hadn't actually articulated that, but he was operating from that. Okay. And what the way to really think about it is you have your model, but you also have your anti-model. Okay. So I had new factory thinking and I have old factory thinking. So when I wrote the book, New Factory Thinker, it was really just talking about the difference between those two things. Like the old way, obsolete way of doing it is no longer works. Old factory thinking. New factory thinking looks like this. This is a better way to do it. By having both sides, it was clarifying. It makes both sides clearer, right? Understanding the problem. One time I went to gave a keynote speech at Johnson & Johnson. That's when I wrote the book on internet marketing. I was getting all these speaking engagements. So they paid me like $10,000 to speak for an hour in front of 300 people at Johnson & Johnson, the pharmaceutical company. I was terrified. It's like, I don't know anything about pharmaceuticals. What am I doing here? Anyway, so I got up there and I started by talking about my theory. I started with the problem. I said, I call it the product first trap. And I said, you know, the problem with companies have, big or small, is that we fall in love with our products. We lose touch with our customers and we don't know what they really want. We're just in love with our product first, you know. And the CEO of the company, Johnson & Johnson, stood up and said, Bill is absolutely right. We're in the product first trap. And they all started scribbling down, 300 people writing down, we're in the product first trap. And then they said, what's the answer? I said, what's the relationship first formula? Anti-model model, right? And then they go, what's that? And I said, well, it's to start developing systems to have deeper relationship with your customers. So in real time, you can understand what they really want, not want. This is way before, you know, we can do that more now than ever. But in those days, the internet was very early. And they were like, oh, that's amazing. So now they had these two things to work with. They had a theory to work with, okay? And they hired me as a consultant. I think it was $50,000. I'm going, I'm consulting now with Johnson & Johnson. Why? Oh, because I have a theory that they bought into and I'm guiding them through it. And that was very, very powerful because it wasn't so much that I knew everything how to do it all. That wasn't the point. I didn't know how to dig all the ditches around that for them. They were going to do that, you see, but I was the one with the theory. So that's where you want to be. You want to be at that. Then you can write books about it. You can have webinars about it. You can have videos. Everything that you're talking about is pointing back to that sort of your master theory that you've named and you've trademarked it and it's yours. Nobody can own that theory. I remember this one guy came to a talk of mine, and I mean, I wrote books about this product first trap thing, right? And then this guy called me and said, I'm using the product first trap. You can't use that. I own it now. I go, no, you don't. I said, you came to my speech. It's in a book. And I said, you can go ahead and use it if you want. I really should attribute it to me, but that's fine. But he was like telling me I couldn't. No, it's mine. And I had publicized it so much that no one could ever say that, you see. So who's going to talk about new factory thinking but me? Nobody can, right? Because I've got it out there so much now. Like if somebody said that, they'd go, well, that's Bill's thing. What are you doing talking about that? Like, I don't have to go and hire lawyers and stuff. I just have to put it all out there so that people know I have this theory. It's named, and then it belongs to me. So that's kind of cool, right? It's also very good to direct all your creativity and intellectual thinking around, okay, I've got this theory, I'm constantly working on it. One thing you have to be very good at doing, though, is killing your darlings. So if you start to realize, you know what, my theory isn't actually working anymore, I got to throw it out. I have to rebuild my theory based on what's the conditions have changed. So this is what happens to a lot of people too. They have a theory and they've been plugging it forever, but the world changed under their feet, but they don't change their theory because they're just so invested in it, so attached to it. That's an advanced thing. Okay, about this. but that's also important because we can get we can fall in love with our theory. You don't want to do that.
Yeah, I think more than ever now.
You're also like not totally attached to your theory, then that's the best theory, because then they go, okay, well, you're really not just pushing something, right? You're just trying to figure out what's the best thing for people to do, you know? So that's pretty cool, eh? You're all going to go away and think about your theory now.
Could I, Bill, go from theory to a lower level, something in the weeds for a second, dealing with AI, an issue, a problem that I'm struggling with?
Do it.
Okay, so I want to create a talking head of myself with my voice.
Yeah.
That's going to be used as with a script that I've created.
Yeah.
That I can use for email campaigns.
Yes.
And so, where do I find the bots for that?
Okay, so you're going to use HeyGen. Okay, and I will send you a link because I've got an affiliate code. You'll get a discount. So just at the end, I'll just send you a link to that.
Okay.
I don't have it in front of me here.
Right.
Actually, I might. Just a second, I can find it. Yeah, so HeyGen's the one. I did one for myself. I'm going to do it again. I got to kind of train it better. But I did it quickly. But basically what happens is, oh, wait a minute, I'm showing you the screen here. Yeah, basically what happens is that you record yourself for like 5 minutes, like just on video. And then what it'll do is it will take that and make it your avatar. Okay. And then what it'll do is it will yeah, I'll send you this link. There we go. You should all check this out, actually, because it's really, really interesting. So basically, you're creating your own avatar. Let me just every bits and everyone. There's the link to HeyGen there. So if you go there, it will show you how to do it. It's really easy. Like it just records you, and then the problem I had with the one I did, I was doing my arms too much. So then basically every moment that I'm talking, my arms are flying around. So I realized, don't fly with your arms, just speak into the camera like this. And then it will take your voice, it'll take everything. Then you put your script in, it'll make a video for you.
Fantastic.
It's very cool, you know. I mean, they got to wonder though, at the end, would it just been better for me to make my own video of myself anyway? So so I don't know at this point how useful it is actually in a way. But it is cool, and it would be an interesting thing to work on, you know, and see how it comes out. Right. So definitely do it. But what it'll do, it'll just take your background and everything that's already on the screen, you talking, everything, just like me right now. Watch the hands, don't do it. And then it will just churn out videos of you if you want.
Fantastic.
You don't have to be there.
Right. Okay.
So, good one. Good question. Good. Got the link?
Thank you.
You got it there, right? I got to everybody. Okay, so we're down to the last 2 minutes. So, okay, so thanks for coming today. I'm gonna put this video together. I've got I upgraded my Zoom video recording system, so the video quality is going to be significantly better. I've already tested it already, so that's a good thing. If anybody wants to know about how to do that, I'll tell you next time. If you're recording Zoom meetings. I'd also like in the next meeting to show you the new setup I've got here. I've got kind of, I call it the space station. I've got a pretty advanced video system now that I've set up. And it's a significantly better way to do this show. I've been watching a lot of videos. I also upgraded my computer. So my computer, AI killed my computer. I thought I had a good computer, and AI just couldn't keep up. It couldn't keep up with AI. So I got a Mac Studio Pro computer. It's just like, it's just a cube, you know. You seen that? I already had the screens already. So this whole show came to you because of the Apple Studio Pro, which is way bigger processor with their M2 chip in it. So got to have this stuff.
Yeah, Bill, I think it would be, I thought about that several times. I really appreciate the way you're framing your screen. It's like so intentional. And I like the sequencing with the slides. And it would be an interesting challenge for this entire group
Yeah.
to kind of like develop a similar kind of, animated rectangle and just like take that on, and we did a project and we just collectively do it. Cause I think you really have tuned it. And it just, you get that sense that this guy is actually taking it to the next level, because the rest of the world is ditch diggers, rectangles that are plain.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, here's the thing about the staging. Okay. Is that's a value positioning in itself. Okay. If people come on their Zoom and the standard of, like, you go on YouTube videos and watch some of these, they're incredibly well staged. Okay. But they don't have any fancy, they literally, like, there's just certain software that we're using, and I'm still learning about it. I'm going to have more, we're going to get even more kind of into this sort of staging thing, but it does to create a higher standard now. So when you're on Zoom and you're just there with your,
Totally.
well, like an example, I'll just show you, just let me grab it.
In a way too, it's like the update on the analogy, like, pre-COVID, I got like a whole closet full of suits and shit, right? I loved wearing really fine clothing and dressing up, and just like, it's a power thing.
Yeah.
And that's over. Like, I just do t-shirts, black or white. But rectangle is something now, is in a sense your front of house, right?
Yeah.
And people make subconscious kind of judgments based on what they see.
Well, you're a designer, that. Anyway, so this is the new camera that next time I'm going to be using as my video camera. Like, I've got a regular Zoom kind of webcam. I've upgraded to this because that's 10 times better quality. It's money, but it's all about perception, all the work I'm doing with my clients. So that's an example. If you want, next time I can go over some of this.
Let's do it.
Technology.
Let's do it, Bill. Are you using eCam, Bill?
How I'm doing it. Here, just as a quick one, the basic way I'm doing these screens. Okay, so say go back to the slides, for example. I can go through the slides. Actually, that's not a slide. Go backwards. There we go, back there. I'm using OBS. It's called Open Broadcast Software. So you can start there. There's another one called eCam, ECAMM. That's a little more user-friendly, but you got to pay for it. So OBS is free, okay? And basically just have these scenes, and you can build them, right? I can move my scene around just as I'm sitting here. I can take that and move it around. So it's really actually kind of, once you get the hang of it, it's quite easy. And it's really kind of fun too. And then what you do is you say start virtual camera. So OBS is the virtual camera. So when I go in Zoom, I just say, my camera is not my webcam, my camera is OBS. And that anything that's on OBS is showing on Zoom. So get OBS, download that, play around with it, make one scene, click on start virtual camera, go into Zoom, say, pick camera, OBS virtual camera, and whatever's on your OBS will be on your screen. And then you could put, even if it's just your name at the bottom or whatever, right? Like I have here, general, see if I have anything else there. Yeah, I've got other scenes. Like if I'm doing my 10% speaking network group, I have that. I have that camera's a little faded out right now, but go back here. Yeah. So anyway, but I can't give you a whole tutorial on that right now. But OBS would be something to download, or eCam. So if you don't mind paying for it, I don't know, it's not going to be. I'm going to get that too. eCam's really slick.
And that OBS, that's compatible with Mac, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Mac or PC.
Actually, eCam runs 100% on Mac. OBS runs on both, I believe. I've got both, Bill, and I did the same thing. I just upgraded my camera. Yeah. I'm not using it today yet, but I'm also bought OBS. Right. And eCam. eCam is a little more detailed oriented, but OBS is also great for recording. If you guys want to do videos of yourself, it really makes it easy.
Yeah, all the videos I do, I shoot them on OBS. I basically just hit record and do my thing. I can go through the various scenes if I want to. And at the end, I hit stop and it's just gives me the video file, I upload it to YouTube, I'm done. There's no editing or anything. I don't want to do editing.
Oh,
I think it's huge.
it's also easy to edit OBS with NCH software, which is not very expensive. NCH video editing, bad.
Yeah, so you could bring it into that. You'd get your video file, bring it into that, and you can edit it. Yeah. So you know, this is a rabbit hole you can get into big time if you want to. But I think the biggest point that we've made here is that if you want to, you know, be presenting yourself, you know, you need proper setup. You need the best. You need proper lighting for starters. You need the proper background, right? So you see how notice here, there's a little green light here. There's a little tube back there. I can make it any color I want, right? I don't know if you can quite see the other side, but I'm not quite pulled out, but there's a little blue light over there. So it creates a little background ambience, right? That's a nice touch to it. I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos about people explain how to do all this, basically, right? It's very interesting, and they tell you, and you know, it's one thing to read it, another thing to do it, but I think the lighting's the most challenging thing to get that right.
One other thought request, Bill, on this presentation, which I thought was amazing. Really, really appreciated it. I mean, I'm here for 90 minutes, like, because this is super valuable. Is could you clip it out, like just the ditch digger castle paradigm that you've developed?
Yeah, I recorded that separately. I recorded it separately.
I'd like to share it with a few colleagues so that they're on the same page and we can just start talking about this analog, right?
So when I send out the report on Wednesday, usually with the video of the whole meeting, there's going to be a separate video that will just be that. Okay. Perfect. I did two things. So, all right. Anyway, I got to go.
Yeah, I got to say, I just love everyone.
Ferris Bueller said, go home, go home.
You know, everyone's like all in, and it's kind of
Thanks,
nice.
Bill.
We've got something interesting happening here.
Thanks,
Bill. If you know anyone that thinks should come to these meetings, bring them to the meetings.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Hey, cheers, guys.
Thank you, Bill.
Everybody.
Wonderful meeting.
You're welcome. Bye.